What's up, everybody? Rabid Hedgehog here. This is Indian of Oklahoma City. This is AGV Sports Flex Jacket. This is AGV Sports Metro Jeans. And we are out here today to ride this beautiful new Indian Chief. This is the Dark Horse variant, so this one has the 116 engine on it. Now, when this bike was made, and I saw it last week during its initial releases, there are some things I was like, about. But seeing it in person ties it more and more together a little bit more. Because from what I could see, it looked like these down tubes are a little bit further out. You know, not really caressing the engine that well. But in all due respect, that's a pretty good gappage there. This is a little bit, but you can see they've added some fun things in here so that way you can get some power and everything like that. So there's your USB and everything like that. So they did make that a little bit useful to have that pass through there, but I think that that's a future thing to come, to maybe put a Power Plus in there, and that could be a good spot for a water reserve whenever you can close that in there. So I can see that coming down the line for this machine. But this thing is the Dark Horse mid-mount controls, the lower slam bar, bobbed out fender, everything blacked out. And of course it has that new nifty little 4-inch screen there. And you can see this thing is a beauty. It's a very bare bones motorcycle, very good looking machine. And it just looks good overall. We'll kind of walk around it once more here. Now this is literally everybody with Harley Davidson mad that the Dyna died. And this is Indian responding by giving people the Dyna. The exposed shocks again. They're back in action. You can see that those are back. You can see that this is not the typical Indian design. It's not an aluminum paraframe. It is steel down tubes. It's a steel frame. Another thing to note is down here you can see where the frame has sections in it that can be removed and dropped down. So with that being said, I still think that there's a lot of future upgrading to come on this machine. Let's go ahead and hop up here, throw that stand up. And now we have the 2022 Chief right below me here. Now this bad boy here has the newer style of switch gear. So you have an on button here instead of typically that was on the console there. Your cruise control is still on the right side. If you're familiar with the Chieftain, you have your music selection and everything. Now this does not have speakers or anything on it, but with the ride command system, if you have like a Cardo, like on your helmet or a Sino or anything of those, you can connect it in there and you can control everything through that right there on your handlebar, so you don't have to reach back and fiddle with it, which is pretty cool. I used that on the FTR and it worked really well. And of course the same page selections and everything like that that's there. Of course your bright, flash the pass on the bottom, horn. Back over here you have your paddle, and back over here you have your paddle for your selections and everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to start this up. Now this is brand new. This motorcycle was just picked up, barely has any mileage on it, and this is I'm one of the first people to actually be able to do this. So I'm excited, and I thank Indian Motorcycle and Indian of Oklahoma City for allowing me this opportunity to do this. This is a very exciting moment for me to be one of the first ones here. You can see this is an engineering release, so this don't have the full software suite on it yet. So whenever it loads up here, this is that new 4-inch ride command screen. Now, I've already switched it to this gauge because I just like the way that looked. It has your tachometer, your speedometer, your fuel, your gear indication, current odometer, direction of travel, and temperature. And of course, your time and sport mode right there. And of course, you can change that this typical way by going through and doing your left switches. You can see all the other things that you can do. Here's that navigation screen. It's a trick little navigation screen. It even has the layers on it for traffic, for weather, and everything just like the big ride command screen. So when it loads up here, you can actually go ahead and press on that. Now these are big old heavy gloves, so, and like I said, this is more of that prototype thing, so it might be a little bit, you know, finicky with gloves right now, but that's, of course, this is a prototype. I expect a little bit of things. So you can see I have traffic layer, and I also have the weather layer on, and we do have some weather inbound coming around here in the good old state of Oklahoma here, trying to flip it around. Oops. Like I said, I'm not too worried about the software response right now, just because it is what it is on that. There's that weather. You can kind of see right through there where weather is inbound. So you can see it coming, and that's a really cool feature to have. Of course, you can put it into a 3D map. You can spot your point. You can zoom in. You can go ahead and do the full find your search, put your home saved, all that fun stuff in there. You can go through and do all that and have some fun with it. I'll go ahead and put this glove back on. We'll go ahead and flip through here. There's your ride modes too, for your, kind of a nice, gentle response. Standard for a normal response throttle, and sport for extra twitchiness, which we're going to keep it in extra twitchy mode today because that's my jam. All right, there's your temperatures there. There's your fuel gauge. This will probably have tire pressure on it, but like I said, this is a demo version. We don't have everything on it right now. Of course, you got your fuel economy, range, all that good stuff right there. Current ride, elevation, moving time, ride time, distance you've gone, good stuff right there. But let's shut up about this thing real quick, and let's go ahead and take it for a ride. And I apologize for doing that because I'm used to my other Indian. All right. So like I said, this bad boy has the 116 engine on it. So this has got the bigger engine and more potent engine. Now this is a mid-mount machine. We'll go over the ergonomics here momentarily. And get out and running here real fast. That's a little cool. I like how the way the arrow just shows up there. That's pretty neat. It's not actually part of the dial, it's part of the digital screen. Potency. Now turn signals are self-canceling from a stop, just like all your other Indian motorcycles. And of course this one has not the monoshock suspension we're used to. This is more in line with the Scout with the exposed double shocks in the rear. I'm going to go ahead and switch it back to the gauges there. Just a preference on my behalf there. And like I said, this right one is more of your selection. So say you bring up a page, then you can actually hit the right switch and go through it. So if you're like on your navigation over here and you want to start selecting some things, so you go in and you bring up your page and go to like search, for instance, as you saw me press in there. So that's how you select everything, is that right paddle right there on the back. I'll just back that off though and go back to your standard thing. That is a really cool feature there. Like I said, we need some work on the glove response, but these are big, heavy gloves. I don't know why I'm wearing them, but it is what it is. All right. Now I gotta say, the 116 engine is a very potent engine when put on a Chieftain or Roadmaster or anything like that, but now we're cutting off a ton of weight. I mean, we're down in only the 600s range now in weight. So we're giving 126 foot-pounds of torque and something like 90-something horsepower room to play. And I could tell you, just these little twitches I'm doing right here, right now, just going between stoplight to stoplight, this thing already wants to scream out from under me, and I don't mind that at all. It is an amazing machine, and I love the layout. I love the fat tank right here. The slam bars with the mid-mount. This is something that I always complain with the Street Bob about. I'm not a big fan of having high-rise bars with a mid-mount. It just doesn't feel right for the rider's triangle for me. I know a lot of people love that, and maybe just a little higher bar is what some people will say, and I might find that out here in a moment. But for right now, the ergonomics show my 6-foot-tall, 32-inch inseam, 209 pounds, is a little cramped on this bike. I do want a little bit more forward on these pegs, but they do make this in multiple different versions. So you can get that little bit more forward if you want it, getting the bobber version with the higher bars even, and that's perfect to me, and hopefully I'll get a chance to roll one of those out here in a moment too. But this thing, you can see my knees are coming a little bit above the tank, with my thighs right there. Because like I said, you are a little bit on here. You definitely are part of the bike now. Now your shoulders come straight down, they match where your hips are. You're back up and you're straight up and down. Your elbows drop right below your shoulders and your arm comes straight out to the handlebars. So it's just a perfect riding position in my opinion. This is my preferred position. It's kind of that more standard position. Now notice I got some water here. We've had lots of snow in Oklahoma and everything, so I'm trying to take it easy because this is, like I said, the prototype bike, and I don't want to break it on us. Not right now. This is brand new, man. Woo! All right. This thing likes to flick. Ooh, twitchy throttle, man. All right. Now this bike is very one-footable. Whenever you come up to a stop, I prefer having 1 foot down and 1 foot on the brake. That way the brake lights are active. So you can see very one-footable. It's a very short position, so when I'm down, you can see my knee is bent and has a little bit of a backward curve to go to my legs because I am a little bit tall, like I said, for the seat height and the landing, but my feet are firmly on the ground. So if you are a brand new rider and you need that firm, progressive hit on the ground, you've got it. That's for sure. And just sitting here, you can see that the vibrations in idle are barely anywhere to be found. I can feel that there's an engine and everything attached to it, but it is not that bad at all, sitting at idle. Now it is a little bit cooler day. You can see we're around 56 degrees, 54, somewhere in there. And with that being said, I might not get that engine heat to see how that works, but we're going to try to ride it to get to that point. Now, engine heat does not bother me like it does some other people. I've been doing this for a very long time. Oh, this thing wants to kick it. Oh, it sounds so good too. Nice. This is a lot of engine for this thing. I'm only in 3rd gear. I just took her up to 4th there, but still barely anything coming out of this thing. 3,000 RPMs. We're at 60 miles an hour at 3,000 in 4th gear. Let me go ahead and get her up to 6th gear. That way we're cruising. We're at 2,100 RPM, about 65 miles an hour. This thing does not need to work at all to pull my weight, to pull this bike's weight whatsoever. And we still got plenty of grunt. You can see I almost jumped 10 miles an hour just with a little flick of my wrist there to get going on this thing. Alrighty. Woo! This is bare bones motorcycling the way it should be, with a little bit of modern twist here and there. Anti-lock brakes, remote start, all that good stuff. There's no key to this thing. You can see the remote hanging there by the demo team, putting it right there. And it just works. And like I said, I'm sitting more on this bike, not really down and into it, because I am a little bit taller, but that does not bother me whatsoever. Now remember, Hedgehog likes to try to stay within the legal bounds of speed and everything. This is a construction zone. These people are going 10 miles an hour over that construction zone limit. It is just, why, guys, why? If we all just got along, we could make traffic workflow better. Now with this groove pavement, these fat tires on this bad boy are not traveling through it at all. I could say that the suspension on this thing is well suited. I did not do any adjustments on the preload, so this is just basic preload, basic everything else, going over grooved roads and broken road, and it is doing it just fine. Like I said, trying to Trying to be kind here. But you get to learn a motorcycle by riding it in every condition. We're in second gear doing 25 miles an hour, 2100 RPM, not even taxing this machine whatsoever. And it's so stable right now over this grooved up road, and you can see some bouncing and stuff in there because it's not a perfect road. This is not how this road's going to be set up. It's just more of a temporary kind of deal. And these bumps and everything that's in it, not a big problem at all for this machine. The suspension is really well laid out. Front suspension is just a traditional fork. So it's not anything special. We don't have any trickery to try to get some unsprung rate out of this thing or anything like that. We just have a suspension, big bump there, and it took it like a champ. Woo-hoo! This thing can rip. All right. Man, it just gets up to speed so easily. So gotta be careful with it. Gotta be careful. I'm glad we get to test it on these bad roads here and this construction and everything, because this is what motorcycling is if you use this as a commuter or a tourer or anything like that. This is what you're gonna feel. And I have been impressed with first year Indians every single time. And most of the time I get on a production variant first, but this one is not production whatsoever. This is still pre-production. And oh my gosh, it rides. Now you'll see I have it on cruise control. It's as simple as pressing it in and pressing to the left to go to set. If you need to up your speed a little bit, you press to the right to the plus. And you kick it and grin it, man. This is quite the enjoyable ride. For not a lot of motorcycle, there is a ton of engine in this thing. And it is just a happy little burbling friend right now. We got quite a bit of wind out here today in good old Okie land. And this is just a bare motorcycle, no fairings, like I said, no trickery, just all right here, rider and air together, and that's it. And I gotta tell you, it rides wonderfully. I'm not being pushed around by the wind very much at all. The weight of the machine is nice and low. The tires are firmly planted on this road. It's not picking up any grooves or trying to track itself into them. It's just riding, and it's riding very, very well. You can see that wind right there from my left to my right, from the north to the south. We got some pretty good wind today, and it's just a nice, stable ride. Nice little light presses to get this motorcycle to change direction. Doesn't take much of an effort to get a good turn started. You're not fighting these bars in any way. Now we're going dead on into the wind at 65 miles an hour, and it's just a nice, stable platform. And like I said, I'm going over these bumps with more traditional suspension, not the typical monoshock, not the typical stiff aluminum chassis with engine stress member, not the typical things we have seen from Indian. We are literally seeing a more traditional bare bones motorcycle than normal. And it just rides so well. The chassis is nice and tight. I don't feel any wobbling or any sort of stress in it or anything like that. Of course, I know I'm not turning it very hard, but this is Oklahoma. We don't have very many options when it comes to turning. What we do have is long open roads for speed and wind and all the things that you will normally feel. And passing and doing all the normal things you would on a commute. Oh man. This thing will get it. Alright, so right now we're getting up to 75 miles an hour, which is a lot of highway speeds nowadays. We're looking at 27 to 2800 RPM at that speed in 6th gear. And you have plenty of power at command of your right hand. You just rip it, and this thing will shoot up 5 miles an hour near instantaneously or faster. I mean, if you want to hold it and get yourself in more trouble, it's going to let you do it. That is for dang sure. Man, oh man, what a wonderful machine. Now we all know I have those massive size 14 feet. And the pedal boxes are lovely. I fit just fine. You can see I got my feet kicked out a little bit though, so that way I can dodge the levers. But if you got a normal size feet, not a bad place to be. This thing is just soaking in miles right now. And I'm more than obliged to do it. This thing slots perfectly between the Scout and the Chieftain, that's for sure. Something that Indian kind of didn't have, because when they first released back in 2013 as 14 model years, they literally only had the touring platform and eventually the Scout platform. So they didn't have a true mid-size bike. They pretty much will jump from one size to another. And this one here is exactly what this company was missing. A true mid-sized motorcycle that punches far above its weight class. Oh man, you could feel the front wheel wanting to get up and go there. Engine braking on this thing is fantastic, just like every other Thunderstroke engine that's out there. Transmission, buttery. Cable operated clutch, your friction zone catches about 3. And then you're just gone. So nice, smooth clutch engagement. Like I said, bouncing off all this stuff, no big deal for this Chief. The suspension is just marvelous. I will say, with all the extra power, it'd be nice to have a seat that could cup you. Golly! Power outruns the electronic speedo there. I went from 40 to all of a sudden almost 60 there because it just bounced. Like I said, this is engineering though, so it could be just that. Watch out for this dirt and salt and sand from all those snowstorms. Woo, doggy! that is beautiful. It has a rev indicator. I just realized it. Getting up to speed there, I saw the red pop up telling me to shift. That was pretty cool. How sporting of it. All right. Neat little trick there. Now we're back with the wind to the back. So semis and stuff won't really give you too much pressure or anything like that. So not going to get a good test of that right now. But I am smiling from ear to ear on this bad boy. What a ride. I wish you could hear it. I know it's stock pipes and nothing major, but it has a very good, just low throaty growl to it. And it sounds really, really good. So you can see, you just jump in speed. He wanted over, I gave him the room. All I did was rip, and it just 10, 15 mile an hour. Bam, right there, top gear. Dadgum. Man, this thing is a beautiful, beautiful ride. I cannot be any more happier with this in this configuration. I'm comfortable. I need a little bit more seat to keep my butt in this thing whenever I plow it in. Because when you plow it in, it wants to send you places. And like I said, you even get navigation and everything in this little one. Not all of them come with this particular 4-inch ride command screen. They have traditional speedometers on other models. They have traditional gear layouts and everything like that. But then they have this one here, and like I said, you can connect your phone to it along with your headset, you know, and that way you can control everything through the handlebars and keep your hands on the bars and just control it. And that's a nifty feature for anybody who's looking to go for long-term touring. These are nice fat bars, and they're so comfortable in the hand. It's a very comfortable machine all the way around for somebody my size. Like I said, 6 foot tall, 209 pounds, 32-inch inseam. Just a lovely, lovely ride. I just want to cruise all day long right now. And this thing will rip into a canyon, and this thing will rip into places. This is exactly what we asked for when we were looking for a mid-sized motorcycle with a big twin in it. This is as American as it's going to get, guys. There is no replacement for displacement. This thing is so quick, so snappy, good ride. I don't have any complaints about where things are. I could see maybe somebody with a shorter inseam having some difficulty with this air cleaner. I could see, you know, nothing on this side. Now with the larger feet, you can accidentally press on the reservoir down there for the rear brake. But other than that, it's not that bad at all. Like I said, it's just adjusting yourself to this motorcycle. And I'm one of the first to get to do it. And it is just such a pleasant ride right now. Broken roads don't bother it. Wind doesn't bother it. Grooved roads don't bother it. It's just a nice ride. This is what motorcycles should be. Bare bones, basic, hilariously fun, with a little bit of modern twist to it. And like I said, I don't even want to play with it. I like that little gauge right there, with its little bit of techno wizardry telling me when to shift and all that fun stuff is just pleasant to have. It's just so happy to burble along right now, and I'm happy to be on it to burble along with it. What a machine. So if you guys are wondering what this motorcycle could be used for, definitely a long-term trip is not out of the question with this machine. Maybe the configuration of the pegs might be a little bit different for you. You know, just get a little bit more forward with this particular model. But then they have the Super Chief, they have the bobber, they have mix and matches of all these parts and what they can do. And you can figure out a way to fit this to you. This one's perfect for this inner city commute that I'm doing right now. If you're using the inner city interstates like this, then this is just an easy, nice ride. And it's so stable and it holds the highway so nicely. And I feel like a commanding presence, even though this is not a terribly large motorcycle. I feel like it presents itself very well in the lanes. I feel like it's just a beast. This 116, there is no reason to do any upgrades to this machine. Maybe some exhaust if you want to sound a little bit better. Maybe something of that nature. But seriously, there's more than enough power here. There is more than enough just fun to be had the way this machine sits. This Dark Horse is perfect for that inner city commute. Perfect for A to B riding if you're going, you know, friends' houses or bar hopping or whatever you like to do. This one's gonna rip and get, and you're gonna embarrass a lot of people at a stoplight. For dang sure. And with just a little bit of changes here and there, or even buying the bobber version, or buying the Super Chief version, or any of the ones with the forward mounts or floorboards or anything like that, now you have a long-term cruiser over these vast open roads. And then you have a canyon carver. This thing is a big twin Swiss Army knife. And of course, if you're on these long trips and you need a drop-off cruise control, you just rock that forward or tap it off. I'd prefer the rocking forward method. And that way you can cut that cruise control off if you need to. hitting these big old bumps on this road right now, and like I said, I'm not getting flung off the seat or anything. The only thing I'm going to say is just a little bit more seat. This is a very thin, low profile seat. It's not the discomfort, it's the sliding factor. When you press this thing into action and to ask that 116 to accelerate, you start to slide off of it and you got to hold on for a moment. Clench the cheeks to stay in the seat, man. Now this machine also is single front disc brake, single rear disc, so it doesn't have twin discs on the front. We're going to come up here at 40 miles an hour. We're going to give her a nice firm progressive stop. Oh yeah. Oh, those brakes are good. Good firm bite on both front and rear. Nice feel. Everything for a prototype bike, this thing is stacked, put together well. You can see sometimes if I hit that, you can see that speedometer cannot keep up with how fast this thing accelerates. Wow! Of course, this is engineering software. I'm not going to hold that against it right now, but about 40 miles an hour is all you're going to get in first gear, because it it wants to shift and keep on going. But man, oh man, what a ride this machine is. And I want to thank Indian Motorcycles and Indian of Oklahoma City for allowing me this opportunity to take out this brand new 2022 Chief. I'll put all the details below as to the specifications and everything of this machine, but my gosh, is this thing a healthy, wonderful beast of a ride. Let me go see if I can steal another one real quick. We'll holler at you in a moment. All right, let's do a quick walk around on the bobber version. This is going to have wire wheels, still the fat tires, a little bit different front end, more of a traditional beer can style front end. This is going to have forward mount with the mini apes on it, still blacked out machine. One thing I noticed, this was pretty cool. If you come down here, it's got a charge port right here. Had that open and a little Allen wrench and everything. Kind of stored down there in the event that you need something. So along with your power, your USB power hiding up here, it has power down there as well. So a little bit different. Some chrome, some black, a little bit more contrast. And this one's going to have, like I said, 111 traditional gauge. So you have that new on switch there. Still have the ride mode, so standard's right there. All right, so you get it on there. You just hold it there. All right, I got the cylinder mode. You can see that it does have tire pressure. There was front, back. Go ahead and do this real quick. Make sure it's in sport. It is. Cool. Standard conveyor over here. Trip 2, trip 1. DC power, air temperature, miles per gallon, current range on fuel. Start and ready to go. Same affair with the cruise control and all that as well. Now the mirrors on the other one were nice and visible and crisp, good behind you action there with barely any body parts or anything visible. This one, of course, having a little bit higher bar, same ordeal. Good visibility out the mirrors. Now I have to say, 111 is a lot of engine for this bad boy. This one's only 119 foot-pounds of torque, so not quite as much twisting force going into it. Not quite as much horsepower. That's kind of a metaphor for this bike going through there on the rails there. It's like riding on rails. Scroll over to the tack here real quick. There we go. All right. So this is the other configuration. Being that I'm taller, like I said, if you saw me on the mid-mount, my knee was coming a little bit above the tank now. We set flush. So this is more of a perfect position for my style here. And like I said, I don't mind mini apes when it comes to having a forward-mounted position. Remember, handlebars are more for steering a bike, not holding the bike or not holding on to the bike. That's what your seat and posture is supposed to be doing. So if you got to hold on to the handlebars, you might have a slightly off-size bike for yourself. Now you can see I have a little bit more rise to my arm to get up to the bars. It's a nice comfortable fall straight out. They're not overly too wide or anything crazy like that. Scrub those off real quick. Now this one, I gotta say, versus the other one where it was just a nice press and lean into your turn, this one you gotta fight a little bit. Steering geometry is pretty short on this one. I noted that when I was backing it up. You can see that steering head doesn't have much side to side. So it's not going to turn too well at the slow speeds because you really lock it very quickly side to side. Still a nicely balanced machine though. .111 is perfect for this bike. The 116 is a lot for this motorcycle. I will say that. I love it though. I love the insanity of putting such a large engine in sport mode on such a little frame. What a blast to ride. But the 111 is very potent in and of itself. 119 foot-pounds of torque on a motorcycle and the 600-pound range is nothing to sneeze at. It's a lot of torque, a lot of twisting power. And even though we're light on horsepower, maybe in the 80s now, maybe up to 90, it's still perfect for this. So you can see traditional set, you can see little cruise controls now set down there. We still got our time, we still got our fuel gauge, we still got everything we need. Typical lighting cluster for an Indian though. You have your bright, your side stand down, your engine, general maintenance warning, left and right ABS, low tire signal, and neutral. So everything's still pretty standard on this in terms of the Indian style. The only thing is it doesn't have that typical dual color there. It's just a solid color this time. Now I will say that in this position, the suspension's a little bit choppier than the one before it. The Chief with the lower bars felt a little bit more planted, but this one's got a little bit more chop to it. I don't know if that's just from the slightly different front end, slightly different position of the handlebars, but there's definitely a little bit more chop because you don't get to put your weight down on the bars like you did a moment ago on the other machine. And I don't mind having a little bit of weight on the bars if you need to, because that does help with steering input and some other things. But still, the suspension overall, though, going over this broken junk, is very good suspension. I'm really not feeling anything to be like mad at or anything like that. A little chop due to your positioning and maybe a little bit less weight transference is no big deal. And it's still very planted in the actual turn, so whenever you get into a turn, it's not wallowing about. It's still very, very firmly planted. It's just the way it's transferring to my hands and the way I'm feeling it now versus a moment ago. But it rides so well. I mean, it's just a very comfortable riding bike. And it's so simple to ride too. And this is even more bare bones. You don't have to worry about navigation or flipping through any of that mess. You just kind of ride it. Still got a ton of pull-away power, as you can see there, going from 45 back to 60 in 6th gear with no big deal. 2200 RPM now. So the 111 churns a little bit more from 22 to 2250 to stay at 60 miles an hour. The 116 was doing that at, like, you know, nowhere. just that thing was ready to go no matter what. Ergonomically, everything is well placed. Thumbs can reach everything. Fingers can reach the paddles. Not an adjustable lever system at all, so they're just fixed there. The stance, like I said, is beautiful. A little bit more forward mounted controls. That's exactly kind of what I'm looking for, but I would prefer the lower bar, hilariously. I'd prefer the bar to be right there. Just have that perfect stance for me. That single brake disc system working just fine front and rear. I'm impressed. It doesn't feel like a single disc system. It feels more like a double disc because it grabs. It grabs really good. It's very progressive. Just a very good bite. I'm very impressed with it. And like I said, you do got to kind of fight this one a little bit more. Get a little touchdown there. So the bike is fairly low to the ground. You'll get some touchdowns there. Foot's more touching down there than the bike. As you can see, though, it gets right back up in operational speeds in no time. It's a very pleasant bike. I like the 111 as kind of that calm cruising engine. It's like the Impala versus a Corvette or something. You got a car that's slow, methodical, for a family, and then you got the sports car, and the dark horse of the 116 is definitely the Corvette, and this is definitely the more vanilla, the more normal kind of approach to a motorcycle. But it's still got a lot more pep than what's really needed, to be honest, but it still rides really well. Like I said, you get a little bit of touchdown action, so you're still not too far off the ground. But it's a comfortable bike to take to the limit. I mean, you know where the limits are on this thing. It's like, it feels so familiar, and yet it's a brand new platform because it just rides so tame. There's nothing to get used to. There's nothing new to scare you or anything like that. It's just an easygoing, really good riding platform. And it doesn't mind being flogged or having fun or just cruising. It's just a good all-arounder. This is seriously what the Dyna should have been. The Dyna was more bare bones, more motorcycle, but this one, this is the modern interpretation that everybody wanted and nobody got. And this is going to pull a lot of people from a Harley Davidson. If they didn't believe in Indian before, they're going to believe in Indian now, because this platform is just fantastic. Another first-year offering that just knocks it out of the park, and it's such a pleasant and comfortable ride. This seat's a little bit different. It's got more traction to it. It doesn't have the power of the 116 to pull me off the seat. So this one's seat and everything just feels more comfortable and a little bit more planted, because it doesn't have the ability to just rip out from under you either. And going over broken junk, like I said, is there a little chop to the front end? Yes. On this one, not the other one, but this one for sure, just a little bit. And like I said, that's probably just because the rider triangle's changing the way it bounces off the hands on a Mini 8. But it's still very planted. It's still very good as a motorcycle, and you could tell I'm touching down components already, and I just got on this machine only a few moments ago because it's just easy to use. And you can feel the traction, you can feel everything. You know what this bike is doing. It talks to you very well. And that's what you need in a bike, one that communicates everything it's doing to the rider through mechanical, touching, and everything. It's just perfect. The other one did so well as well, and this one's just great too. I mean, I'm really enjoying the new Chief. Really enjoying this. Genuinely, I'm not a paid endorser from Indian of Oklahoma City or Indian Motorcycles, anything like that. They have not paid me to do this. This is just me being a normal everyday rider, getting a chance to do this because of Indian of Oklahoma City, because of Indian Motorcycles allowing me to come a day early. Instead of riding in a line, I get to do this by myself, kind of ride my own ride, feel my own way out, ride at my own speed, ride at my own tempo like you would every day, because you can't do that in a line. You can't feel for a motorcycle in a line. And this is nothing short of perfection on a first-year platform. For a prototype, for that matter. We're still in engineering prototype mode here. It sings to me in great ways. And I can't really wait for these to come out. They're reasonably priced, starting under 15 grand, going all the way to 22 for a Super Chief with all the bells and whistles you can think of. But to be honest, there's no American competitor like it. Because even the Heritage and some of the others that are in this line don't even have the ability to add navigation. They don't have the ability to put in some of the technology that this bike has. So you get a lot of bang for your buck. And the braking is superior. Like, seriously, when I rode the first year of the Harley Softails, only 2 of them had good rear brakes. And only the front brakes were somewhat marginal in a couple of them, but okay-ish on the others, and just fine on one. But these, coming right out of the box, are already better. And I get it, you're not supposed to use just a rear brake or just a front brake. You're supposed to use both. But in the event of an emergency, which brake do you use? The one that works. So if you have a failure of the front brake, you want the rear brake to grab and stuff. So, I mean, it was just simple things that I was questioning. And then they got angry at me for questioning it. But I mean, if you see, I don't got anybody behind me, so we're coming up on this light. I'll come in a little hot. We're just gonna do a rear brake here. And you can see, this one does not have ABS, so I got a little bit of a slide there, but you can actually feel the brake wanting to do that. You can actually feel everything on this motorcycle. And you can see how well balanced it is. I almost got to completely nothing waiting on those cars to go. And you could just feel everything this machine is trying to tell you. You know that it's sliding. You know that the brake is going to slide. You know exactly when it's going to, because you can feel everything, and it's just so well done. What a great balanced machine. And perfect for this kind of environment. It's smaller. If you're in a state that allows you to lane split or filter or whatever you want to call it, it's perfectly allowable. It'll do it. It's nice and narrow, but just wide enough. And it's fun to sometimes just take it through city streets and ride around like you would, just to fill it out. Like when you got to put your foot down, how it comes down. I mean, look how nice and short the saddle is. Very bent leg there. You can see my other leg comes out from the hip and slightly forward. See that big old freaking clodhopper I've got there. Like I said, it's a little bit, you can see my foot's very, very large, so it bridges the gaps real easily. But you can tell it's very usable still. Transmission is still just as slick as the 116 version. See a little bit of vibration at the bar, but nothing major. This will get that good chance to look at engine heat. Granted, it's just 54 degrees today, but in the Fahrenheit range. Really, I mean, even on the other one, I had a little heat on my left leg, but not anything concerning. Like I said, when it comes to heat and me, I don't really feel it like I used to. The only bike that really still stands out to me in terms of heat, and this is probably why I'm not affected by heat like I used to be, the Night Rod was definitely one of the hottest bikes to ever ride, because your pipe curled right under your leg right there, and boy howdy, you could feel that in a 100-degree day. So these to me, because the pipes are swept back and away from you, no matter which side you're looking at, so that pipe's way down there. Primary usually can put off a little bit of heat and stuff down there next to the primary transmission, and Been out on this thing for a few moments here, and I'm kind of trying to feel out any major heat or anything like that, and I don't really feel too much. It's mostly left side from what I can feel. I don't really have anything to talk about on the right side, even that's the exhaust side. It doesn't seem to be an issue at all. So the left side is definitely all right. Here comes another spot to just sit. Such a well-balanced machine. It's just easy to sit here one-footed, flat on the ground, 1 foot up. Just comfortable. Yeah, I gotta say, when it comes to this bike, man, sitting in stoplights, going through the motions of commuting, like you're going to work, going to school, whatever you're going to be using this bike for, there's just pleasant. It's just such a pleasant machine. You don't think about it. You just don't think about anything because it's so easy to ride. And I love it. I love its easygoing nature. More stop and go traffic, more chances to get that heat built up. And it just doesn't seem to be that much heat at all. Like I said, a little bit on the left side, but then you get moving and the leg just goes straight back to normal temperature. And so sitting still, it doesn't really build up much heat. Had the wind to my side a moment ago, so it had a little bit more wind to blow heat to that left side. That's what my guess is going to be. And then now that I'm got the wind to my back, I don't feel any heat whatsoever. It's blowing it straight away, basically. So it's not a big deal in terms of everything heat-wise. Like I said, the 116 really didn't bother me either. So just likes to ride. Perfect commuter. Perfect little commuter. If you want a dadgum good sandwich, someplace else deli here in Oklahoma City, Western and 23rd Street, heading over there. Sorry, I'm just on a random thing because I'm just basically treating this like my own bike now, in a way. When you get so comfortable, you start talking about food. But Western and 23rd Street over there, someplace else, deli, and they've been around for over 40 years here in Oklahoma City. And if you're ever around town and you're in this area, great place to go catch some food. Definitely want to endorse them because they're awesome. Kind of take a look at it over there. Man, it's just a comfortable ride. Man, I can't talk enough about the good suspension on this bike. We're down here bouncing around on these things. You'll hear a little chop in my voice here and there. I mean, it doesn't have the longest suspension travel, but it's good enough suspension travel. engineered better than the Scout. I will say the Scout is a lot more choppy than this. And this has a fine ride for standard type shocks, not the typical mono. And it just rides so well down these busted up old Oklahoma roads. It has been an absolute pleasure to ride this machine. It's just perfect for everything. This one really is great for long hauls and these short city travels. Like I said, yeah, I think the front needs a little bit more steering head input, but you know, even with the higher bars and everything, it's just such a good ride that it will allow you to go a lot longer. So what I might do if I was to have a Chief, and I probably will, is I would take the Chief, keep the lower bars of the standard type Chief, the Chief Dark Horse, but put this forward mounting on there. Maybe bring it up a smidge more than the other bars, maybe a smidge, and then I'd have the perfect bike. But this one, man, I would not mind taking this one out the way it is either, because this one's just more comfortable for long term, because there's like no weight on your wrist or anything at all. It's just a nice natural fall. Like I said, ergonomically it's perfect for me. I can move around, I can see through the mirrors. There's nothing but lane behind me. There's no bit of my arm or anything through those mirrors. The other ones, you know, you can see a little bit of the shoulder to see the lane correctly, but this one's perfect. This one's literally just a Sunday cruiser where you can sit there and just happily burble along. 35 miles an hour, 2,200 RPM. I'm gonna guess 70 is probably about 27 to 2,800, just like most of the Thunderstroke 111s in 6th gear. Engine braking, fantastic. Coming to a stop. I mean, the bite on these brakes, like I said, it feels like a double disc system, but it's only on that one side, as you can see. It feels like a double disc, brakes like a double disc. Just a single. Very well done on the brake package. Cannot complain. I'm just cruising downtown Oklahoma City. Nothing but a smile on my face. Not disappointed whatsoever in this new Chief. What a brilliant ride. What a brilliant ride. So at any rate, I want to thank Indian of Oklahoma City once again and Indian Motorcycles. Also want to thank Law Tigers of Oklahoma for sponsoring us and helping us purchase our materials and stuff. They're one of our proud sponsors, AGVSportUSA, for proudly sponsoring the gear that we wear. As you can see, my Flex Textile jacket with the Metro jeans today from AGV Sport. I just don't have one of their winter gloves, but I need to get some here. That way I can match up a little bit, but hey, gotta love the gear that they've provided so far and some of the stuff I've bought. But if you guys are looking at the Indian Chief, I can tell you what, you will not be disappointed in this machine at all. It is a fantastic, like I said, these are still somewhat pre-prototype machines, but they don't ride like it. The fit and finish is spot on already. The ride is perfect. Like I said, I'm always impressed with Indian, and their first year bikes, and this is just another one of those examples. So at any rate, this is the Rabid Hedgehog. If you have any questions about the NN Chief, see below for the full statistics of both of these machines and pricing and all that good stuff down below. And if, of course, you want to locate one to buy, always think about Indy of Oklahoma City. They do ship nationwide. Great family to deal with, and like I said, I'm not paid by them or anything like that. They just let me have a lot of fun. So at any rate, keep that shiny side up one. Catch you on that next ride.
What's up, everybody? This is the Rabid Hedgehog, and thanks once again for watching our videos. Please like, share, subscribe today if you like what you've seen. We also want to give a shout out to our dealership partners and motorcycle mechanics. We have Motive Cycle Works Moto Guzzi out of Oklahoma City. They are both mechanic and a Moto Guzzi dealership. They are located at 906 North Ann Arbor Avenue, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73127, or 405-641-1801, or motivecycleworks.com. We thank Don and his crew for helping keep our CX500 running strong and awesome. Also, we want to give a big shout out to Indian of Oklahoma City, located at 7 Northeast 10th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73104, or 405-606-3615. We promise you will not find a better family in motorcycles that will help you get on the dream ride that you're looking for. We also want to reach out to any dealership who might be interested in letting us ride and get your videos out there and your motorcycles. Please reach us at the email in our About section. I'd like to also thank our sponsors, Law Tigers Motorcycle Lawyers, locally in Oklahoma, 405-276-4986, and 24/7 states everywhere, 1-888-863-7216. Also, Doug Crawford with AMSOIL USA Synthetics. He can be found at usasynthetics.com or 405-388-6170, providing AMSOIL for our motorcycles and keeping them protected. Also, Enloe and Associates Insurance Agency, locally in Oklahoma at 405-261-1010. Once again, thank you so much for watching, folks. You all have a great one. We'll catch you on the next ride.